Did you ever had the feeling that what you actually need, you shouldn't need, or what you are actually feeling, you shouldn't feel, or what you actually are, you shouldn't be? Maybe you felt a need to be seen and heard more than an average child and were described as needy and criticized for it. Maybe you are still criticized for it now. Maybe you felt things deeply and profoundly from the early childhood and were labeled as too sensitive or too much. Maybe you wanted to express the whole palette of your feelings but were rejected because you were too much. So you've created a habit of constantly questioning yourself, judging yourself, and diversifying between what you should and what you shouldn't feel, what you should and what you shouldn't need, and started to blame yourself when you don't live up to those expectations. Maybe you've made experiences where you judged yourself a lot. Maybe you're still doing that. Maybe you're constantly questioning yourself and what you feel or shouldn't feel. Maybe you're even blaming yourself. And if you ever question why these mechanisms are happening, I deeply recommend you this video today. Today I want to talk about toxic shame and guilt and where does it come from. So, as I explained in previous videos, in contrast to shock trauma, when we talk about attachment trauma, we talk about certain destructive patterns and experiences that affected our development and our way of bonding, usually not caused by a one-time event, but by permanent patterns and experiences, really often for a longer period of time. That affected us, the kid, and its nervous system during the development phase. So as children, we are usually exposed to the destructive behavior patterns of our parents or caregivers over a longer period of time. In order to survive all of this and in order to maintain the idea of being able to change something or the idea of hope in the unsolvable dilemma, let's say, we are in, where we maybe cannot express certain emotions, where we are not appreciated, maybe with protest or anger or the need for closeness or whatever. So in order to survive all of this, and in order to maintain the idea of being able to change something, as dependent children, we start to question ourselves. As children, we are unable to realize that our parents have destructive patterns, because that would blow up our nervous system. The stress would be too big. So the only chance we have to stay stable in this whole scenario is to blame ourselves for what's happening. So the kid blames him or herself for everything it has experienced. This is how we created the illusion of control in a scenario where we are in fact not in control at all. And this is also how we created an internal stability, but also how we created a distortion. And all of this while in fact we made the experience of powerlessness, of helplessness, and no real control over what's happening in the system of the family or caregivers. And that's why we begin to suppress all the impulses that the parents can't handle and don't want to handle, and suppress themselves internally and now externally in their children. And now we too judge them as wrong. We judge them as wrong too now. And that is what we call toxic shame and guilt. Toxic shame arises. My needs are wrong. My impulses are wrong. My feelings are wrong. I should feel differently. I should need something differently. I am wrong. And because this shame cannot be tolerated in the long run either, it is also gradually suppressed into the subconscious. And later for us as adults, the permanent suppression of these feelings of shame and guilt can become the unconscious motor of many of our activities. And these usually have a very destructive effect. This usually has a very destructive effect, yeah, as they prevent actually deeper relationship, deeper connection. So thank you very much for watching this video about toxic shame and guilt. Now I would like to ask you, how about you? Did you ever had the feeling that what you actually need, you shouldn't need, or what you're actually feeling, you shouldn't feel? Or how do you feel about this video? Or do you want to heal maybe and recover from certain experiences and patterns? So please let me know in the comments or via private message. I would love to hear from you, and I wish you a great day now.